Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, besties. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. If you're here, please don't forget to like the video. Like the video so people that know that it's on and popping in here. It's your boy, Mixed Mercury, the Astro Himbo. I almost forgot my name for a second. But we're here, we're queer, it's lit, it's a lot going on, as evidenced by the title of this live. Before we get started, while I ramble a little bit in my intro, if you have any questions about anything we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, because there's been a lot happening, if there's anything you have a question about or that you want me to clear up, please feel free to drop a question in the chat. I would love to just start there. A lot of what I have to talk about is stuff that we've already talked about, but now with the context of we've had Jupiter in Cancer for the last month, and we've had Mercury retrograde for the last month, and we've had all of these transits that we've been discussing. So whatever you're actually going through, excuse me, whatever you're actually going through, whatever you've been experiencing, if you've had any questions come up, or if you've had any revelations come up, please let me know. I would love to answer those questions, and I would love to just chat about it, because I find that that helps make the astrology of it all make more sense versus just me coming up here and lecturing as I do. I don't mind doing that. But yeah, my plan for today, to answer some questions if you have any, to talk about obviously the transits coming up over the next 2 weeks, because I will take a break next week and give myself the Sunday off. And then I want to also pull cards for the full moon, since I will not see y'all the Sunday before the full moon in Taurus. So you get 2 card pull readings in a row. Exciting times. So if you're gonna be here for the full live, get cozy, because it's a yapping kind of day. I think the moon is in Sagittarius, so it's gonna be one of those. If you've had a reading with me, or you will have a reading with me, I've just been a little bit slow on getting the recordings out. Just bear with me. I fall asleep at like 8 o'clock now, and my days be busy. So it is what it is, but I will get that back to you. I'm also going to figure out how to put my iCals in my Patreon store. If it makes sense to do that, I'm going to do them that way. But if you would also like to just donate in advance, you can email my Mixed Mercury email, mixmercuryastro@gmail.com. Excuse me, mix.mercuryastro@gmail.com. And I will send you the iCals that way. I had to check with some other astrologers about the eclipses for next year, because some of them I was kind of like, wait, what? So I got some of that worked out, and I should have that finished hopefully by the end of this week. So if you would like the iCals, feel free to message me, email me, PayPal me, or whatever, and then I will get that out to you. Otherwise, I don't know that I have any other updates. I think my books are full through December, because I don't have very many openings with all the holidays. It might be full through parts of January, but since I am in my support group, I don't have Mondays available right now, but I should have Mondays available by like the second half of January, unless I re-enroll in the support group whenever the next cohort starts. So I'll keep y'all posted on that. But until then, Wednesday evenings is all I got. And yeah, I think that's everything. So I see some comments pouring in from the chat. Let me just say hello to Deb. Hi. Say hello to Carrington. Hi. Say hello to Sloan. Hi. And say hello to Hart. Good to see y'all here. And hello to everyone who's not in the chat. Thanks for being here. Carrington says, someone wise once told me to wait until I have all the information before I react. That has been something I've had to practice during these transits. Well. Yeah. I was talking about this with my best friend yesterday. I got to hang out with my bestie yesterday. And we were also talking about just this idea of whether you are trying to figure out, well, I guess the general conversation was about how to navigate uncertainty. And she was asking me in the context of like how I feel like I've changed or how I feel like I'm different since being on testosterone. Because testosterone has a way of, at least for me, the way that it felt for me like immediately 24 hours after my first shot, not even 24 hours, I think 12 hours after my first shot, I felt like, oh, you're good, Desiree. I literally just got started. So when I first started T, I felt an immediate shift from this kind of, to me, it felt very like my emotions and everything, my thoughts were just kind of spilling out all over the place. And I know I've joked and kind of talked a lot about how I, as a Capricorn sun, like to give off the perception that I am calm, cool, collected, and in control of myself. But honestly, being on testosterone did make me feel more emotionally in control of myself. Now, the caveat of that being I still have to practice being emotionally vulnerable, right? And letting my feelings actually show, or at least tapping into my own feelings. But testosterone had a way of being like, focus on the mission, focus on the task, and like deal with the information that you actually have and what's in front of you. So that it almost made me feel a little bit more Aries, which would make sense because in my T-boy chart, I believe I have the sun in Aries, or at least I have no, I have the sun in Pisces, but I have Mercury in Aries. And it gave me a lot more of this ability to kind of zero in and focus on something a little bit more specific and have less of that anxiety around all the potential outcomes and consequences and things like that that you just sometimes don't have control over. So it gave me control in some ways and it allowed me to let go in other ways, and that's just been really interesting. So one of the things that came out of that was this ability to kind of wait and not crash out, so to speak, before I have all the information. So that is advice that I've also been giving out to others where it makes sense. I think it's perfectly fine and normal to react to something before you have all the context and all the information. But in instances where there's just a lot of factors that are out of your control and you're waiting for an answer to give you clarity, sometimes you do kind of just got to sit on your hands and let it play out until you know, and then respond as you go. But, everyone's different. What I mean by T-boy chart is that I pulled a chart for the moment that I started testosterone. And for those who don't know, um, in that chart, I call it my T-boy chart because it's basically when I became a man. And in that chart, I have Taurus rising with Venus there. And so it was like all the shit I talked about Taurus, the sign Taurus, came back to bite me in the ass because surprise, now I have it as Venus in its own sign in the first house in my T-boy chart. And then I believe I have, like I said, Mercury in Aries, the sun in Pisces. I have the moon in Virgo, which, okay. So I couldn't get away from a Mercury ruled moon. And I have Jupiter in Aries. I have Mars in, where is Mars in that chart? Let me look. Mars. Oh, Mars is in Scorpio. Wait, what? Is this the chart? Oh, hold on. Mars is in Gemini. That's right. Oh, I lied. So I don't have, wait, I don't have? Okay, now I'm forgetting my own chart. I actually have the sun conjunct Jupiter in Pisces in my T-boy chart. I thought Jupiter was in Aries. Interesting. And Saturn in Aquarius. So anyway, yeah. T-boy B-day chart. It's interesting. I don't think about it that often, but the thing I do think about the most is having Venus and Taurus in the first house because it's just like the universe is funny like that. Okay. Next question was, well, not a question, but Sloan says, the reading from last week was so incredibly poignant. Lots of reflecting on how much I've grown lately and in the last 2 years. I love that. Well, I'm glad that it landed for you. I'm glad that it did a little something for you in your sense of self and self-reflection. Yeah, if you happen to know the time that you did your first shot or, started HRT or whatever it was, I mean, you can you can pull charts for literally anything, right? So it doesn't have to be when you started HRT. If there's a different moment in time that you first realized that you were trans and like, started moving with it, or first time that, I don't know, I like to pull charts for when relationships began, like a first text message or a first meeting type chart, and follow those. I love pulling charts for events. I think it's so interesting. It tells you a lot about your relationship dynamics and the circumstances that led to that relationship beginning and all that kind of stuff. When you start a new job, if you start a business, or when business is started, it's lots you can do with astrology. So yeah, highly recommend that if you want a little more insight. Okay, if nobody has any more questions, I can just jump into the lesson, the conversation. Mm. Eggnog latte today because it's eggnog season. Eat. Okay, I'm going to assume there's no more questions. I know there's a little bit of a lag, so I tried to wait. I'm going to pull up a post because there's a post I saw today. I guess, well, I'm going to pull up a post. I'm also going to list out all of the transits coming up over the next 2 weeks because there's a lot. And I want y'all to be prepared. And I'm not going to be here to guide you through it, but I trust you guys because y'all are great listeners. You've been tuned in, and the lives the last few weeks, I think, have prepared all of us for navigating this shit. So eggnog is pretty good. It's like really thick, creamy milk. It's kind of like thick and creamy and kind of custardy, almost like a milkshake, especially if you get like a vanilla bean type eggnog. But it's really good in coffee. It's also good with whiskey or bourbon. I love bourbon. But if you're not really into like really heavy dairy type drinks, then it won't be that good to you. It might be kind of gross. Yes, with nutmeg, oh, slaps. All right, transits for the next 2 weeks, starting today, friends. Today, Mercury will retrograde back into Sidereal Libra, and that's going to start around 2:30 p.m. Central Time. So, hello. Hello. So, Mercury retrogrades back into Sidereal Libra today, and then the moon will enter Capricorn tomorrow, so we get a little bit of a moon Mercury square. Tuesday, Mercury will conjoin Venus in Libra, so Mercury Venus conjunction this Tuesday, November 25th. That's interesting to me. And then Wednesday, November 26th, Venus is going to enter Scorpio. So that's my Venus return. There's a live somewhere from last year that me and Samaje did together about Venus and Scorpio. If you want to listen to that in preparation for this transit, I highly recommend it. It was a really nice chat. And then also on Wednesday, we'll have Venus trine Jupiter retrograde and Venus trine Saturn retrograde. And then by the time we get to Friday, Saturn will station direct. So Saturn is basically still in the sky. We haven't talked about that much, but that's, I think, been part of all the bullshit, so to speak. Saturn just being posted up about to station direct and start moving forward again through Pisces. So I'm excited about that. And then Saturday, November 29th, Mercury will also station direct. So remember, that's not the official end of Mercury retrograde, but it is the end of the retrograde phase. And we move into the post-shadow phase for the rest of both Sidereal Libra and Sidereal Scorpio, in my opinion. So we will not be free from that transit until Mercury enters Sagittarius. Then the week of December 1st, there's not a lot of transits, but we do have, like I said, the full moon in Taurus for Thursday, December 4th. And then Jupiter will retrograde back into Gemini on December 5th. And then once Jupiter retrogrades back into Gemini, then December 6th, this Saturday, Mercury will trine Jupiter briefly, and then Mercury will enter Scorpio. And then sneak peek, by the time I see you again on Sunday, December 7th, Mars will enter Sagittarius. And that's all I have to say about that. Because Spirit just had to, the universe just had to give me a Mars-Jupiter opposition I may not. I may not hit the opposition, but I also might hit a Mars Jupiter opposition before my birthday, before I get out of this damn Jupiter, this damn Sagittarius Jupiter perfection. But such is life. Something for me to learn. So, hi, Nicolita. Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on astrologically. And what I want to talk about that I think ties all of these transits together is obviously we're still talking about regulation because of all the water in the sky until December 7th. But the relationship between air and water and just like this whole conversation around a regulated nervous system. What I love about my Instagram feed is that it's also psychic, but it's also very attuned to the sky. And so I feel like I don't know if this conversation has been coming up before Jupiter entered Cancer or just in general when this conversation started coming up, if it was maybe with the Mars retrograde in Cancer last year or the Mercury retrograde earlier this year in Cancer. But I love that people are asking more questions about what a regulated nervous system actually is, because as Western wellness groups like to do, they will take a concept and they will westernize it and bastardize it and basically use it to to control people, for lack of a better way to put it. As many of you know, I used to be a yoga teacher. I was a power yoga teacher in particular, and I did 2 teacher trainings. I did a somatic experiencing training. I did a yin yoga training. And much of that is what at the time I felt like helped me get off of antidepressants. But it also helped me reconnect with my body, which is great. And it just gave me a new perception on really just what it means to do physical activity and focus on breath work and all that other kind of stuff. However, as many of you know, especially with white wellness spaces and white spirituality spaces, they have taken yoga and turned it into something completely different, right? And the irony of that experience for me is that I was in this space. There was a lot of, a lot of white women, many of them very, very nice, very kind, and a lot of them I'm still friends with. So I'm not trying to like talk shit, but a lot of times when people think about yoga today in the West who don't know about the history and the lineage of a yogic practice in places where it originated, they often do think about these kind of white spirituality spaces and yoga and like Lululemon pants and just like crunchy granola type hippie people who now today actually have the luxury of paying for a very expensive yoga membership and taking classes in the middle of the workday because they don't have in-person 9 to 5 jobs, and stuff like that. So at least the studio that I worked at, ended up being very kind of elitist, classist, and slightly racist, whether they realized it or not. And so by the time the BLM era came around, it was like the lights came on in regard to all of those things. And they tried to use this idea of yoga and wellness and meditation and everything else to spiritually bypass a lot of the things that were going on politically at the time. And so that tends to kind of be how people use these tools like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, somatic therapy in general, and now regulation and self-regulation. They kind of will take all of these concepts and turn them into ways to spiritually or intellectually or something else bypass the reality that's going on around them. And that led to a lot of people having some really shitty political takes. So I saw this post this morning that I thought was very fitting. And it's by, I think her name is Tanya Shokar. I could be mispronouncing her name. It could also be Tania. But I posted it on my business Instagram, so y'all can see that. And it's a long post, so I may not read all of it, but I'm going to read most of it because I think it's a great framing for what I want to get into. And it's called Why a Regulated Nervous System is a Myth, a Decolonial Trauma-Informed and Neurodiversity Affirming Perspective. So I know the girlies in the chat love that. Let's get into it. Western wellness wants our bodies to behave and succumb to our will. Banger opening sentence. It wants them to be calm, neutral, non-dual, efficient, and predictable at a moment in time that invites us to collaborate and mass mobilize. This isn't new. In the politically turbulent 70s, a similar wellness trend surged, where meditation, yoga, and inner peace trends rose as people lost faith in institutions. Instead of addressing systemic turmoil, the wellness industry pushed individuals inward, encouraging enlightenment over collective action. The pattern repeats, a depoliticized spirituality urging stillness when what's needed is deconditioning, decolonization, connection, and courage. Regulation gets framed as the absence of outside friction and inner discomfort, something that can be attained through hard work and control. Cardinal keywords there. But not only does this definition bypass our collective reality and encourages us to seek individual solutions without collective integration, it was also never built by or for bodies shaped by complexity, migration, disability, survival, or resistance, nor is it accurate. To say regulated nervous system is to not understand how nervous systems work. It's jumping on a trend and using buzzwords without understanding the implications. Your nervous system is meant to move. It's a living and intelligent system that responds to the moment. It shifts between activation, rest, protection, and connection all day long. A permanently regulated state doesn't exist. The dominant wellness narrative treats our nervous systems like a machine to be optimized. This is an extension of capitalist ideology that views the human body as a resource. Colonization pathologizes activation, sanitizes emotion, rewards docility, and demands tidiness. Hello. This combination asks us to shrink our instincts so that we fit into systems that view strong emotional reactions, which are often necessary for resisting oppression and injustice, as pathology, as dysregulation. But regulation is not the absence of activation. Technically speaking, shifting from rest and digest into fight or flight, if the situation requires it, is also regulation. Regulation is recalibration. Remember that thermostat analogy that I used a few weeks ago? It's the ability to return to your center after activation no longer serves a relational or survival purpose. I'm going to say that again. Regulation is recalibration. It's the ability to return to your center after activation no longer serves a relational or survival purpose. It's also recognizing when your response to the situation is disproportionate or muted and having the resilience and tools to either act or cope with the outcome. A beating heart in a heated or difficult conversation is not dysregulation. A heavy chest while bearing witness to a genocide is not dysregulation. A shaky voice while setting boundaries is not dysregulation. And a hypervigilant baseline if you're femme, queer, or BIPOC is not dysregulation. People who have lived through social injustice, displacement, war, marginalization, or chronic uncertainty, including developmental trauma, can have a more activated baseline. This activation is not pathology. It's wisdom. If you have CPTSD, ADHD, autism, ADHD, or a trauma-wired nervous system, your patterns aren't maladaptive and your nervous system isn't faulty or broken. They're contextually, ancestrally, and neurobiologically intelligent. Colonized psychology calls it dysregulation, but it's your body refusing to conform to norms built around whiteness, capitalism, and emotional suppression. Your relationship with your nervous system is highly personal. Forcing a colonial standard will only cause more harm. Dysregulation can hurt because you get stuck in hyper or hypo arousal, which can take its toll on your relationships and health. You feel deeply in a world that pathologizes emotional depth. You lack community that understands your nervous system baseline. You think regulation is always a solo job. You get hit by the second arrow of shame. You get activated by shame and end up judging and shaming yourself for feeling ashamed, which, So regulation then is being in and prioritizing relationship with your body, your history, and your reality. What Western wellness calls regulation, a persistent and calm state and a lack of emotional activation or response to the moment, situation, or context, is emotional and spiritual repression and dissociation. Healing and tending to your nervous system doesn't mean being zen and quiet. For bodies whose natural state is activation, forcing stillness is a form of violence. Healing means becoming more capable of responding and tending to your nervous system baseline. It's building the capacity to choose your recalibration strategy without abandoning, hurting, or shaming yourself. Shout out to Scorpio. It's understanding and working with your window of tolerance. Nervous system regulation, once decolonized, becomes homecoming, whatever your home might look like. Some examples of this. Some example for people whose baseline state is activation, regulation can look like knowing your sensory thresholds, understanding your neuroception, which is the body's ability to observe and perceive danger or safety in the environment that it inhabits. It's learning to work with your intuition. It's being part of environments and relationships that don't police your nervous system. It's co-regulating with safe people and beings like pets and nature. It's learning how to work with hybrid nervous system states instead of expecting perfectionism. And it's recovering from shame and self-policing. Your nervous system doesn't need to be tamed, disciplined, or fixed. It needs to be listened to and understood. It needs patience, community, and resources that address its specific needs based on its configuration, your lived experience, and the current context. Your body is not malfunctioning. It's doing its best to take care of you based on information it has gathered from your lived experience and ancestry. Do you acknowledge and honor your nervous system's wisdom and hard work? Do you say thank you for trying to take care of me, even when its response feels inconvenient, unproductive, or inappropriate? A regulated nervous system isn't permanently calm, it's flexible and adaptive, and your adaptability will never look like anyone else's. Honor your architecture, honor your ancestry, honor your truth. A regulated nervous system is not the new generational wealth. A regulated nervous system is a classist, racist, and ableist myth that sells you hot air and traps you in shame and perfectionism. It distracts you from the revolutionary and collective work of creating wealth equality. Banger line. Inhale, my nervous system is not another resource for capitalism to exploit, control, and plunder. Exhale, my body is infinitely wise and will show me when and what I need to return to sacred center. Child. And I fucking needed that because it really helped clear up. Helped clear up so many things just about all of the education and spaces that I've existed in over the years, trying to understand all of this stuff and to make it work for myself. It really cleared up that, like, yes, a lot of the ways that people talk about it now, this idea of like just weaponizing basically dysregulation, is kind of like, hey, do y'all know people are dying? Do y'all know that the government is actively killing and disenfranchising people? Do y'all know that like we're in danger, girl? And I feel like every time Scorpio season comes around, especially Mars and Scorpio, which we only get every 2 years, where Mars is right now, there's this reminder of like, hey, quit letting them people play in your face. Every time somebody steps on your toe, it makes you apologize for making them feel bad that you said ouch. They're playing in your face. They are weaponizing your dysregulation against you. They're weaponizing your nervous system against you. They're weaponizing your feelings against you. Like, the purpose of regulation, and I also wanted to read that because I don't know if I've even done a good job of explaining what regulation is, because I've been trying to understand myself. And I understand from my own experience, especially that line about coming back to center when you're no longer in, like, presently in a threatened state. And to me, that means when you're, in a space that actually feels safe to you. But the reality is many of us are not in spaces or living in contexts where we can feel safe. And so that baseline of activation is real. And the person who wrote it, and this is on my business Instagram as well, if you need to refer to it there, but it is, I'll put it in the chat. The creator's name. The creator's name who wrote that post is this person. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, because that's something that feels really true to me. My baseline, no matter what, like I'm a person who's been in therapy for years. I've been on medications, off medications. Again, I was a yoga teacher. I've done the breath work. I've done the meditation. Like I've done literally everything. I work out. I do sports. I co-regulate with people. I do so many things. So many things. And that was my first clue. It was like, it shouldn't take this much effort. It shouldn't take this much effort to regulate. Like, what am I doing all of this for? What is the end goal of this? If at the end of the day, I'm just sensitive. I'm just more sensitive because of the things that I've endured and the experiences that I've had. I was like, it should not take this much effort. And the reality is that, like, yeah, my body is wise enough to give me this baseline of hypervigilance because it's not safe. It's not safe. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder because it's quite literally not safe. I'm constantly passively taking in information, whether that be from the media or from people that I'm not in relationship with, but like people in my community, the fact that I live in Texas and all of that shit. It's like, if every single day I got to hear debates in the media, on social media, and hear people in real life having conversations about whether trans people are allowed to exist, and I am a trans person, or talking about black people's issues and I am a black person, or talking about just whatever else it is, and hearing about people dying constantly, hearing about people getting jumped in the bathroom, hearing about people getting shot at the gas station for dancing or playing music too loud. It's just like, I mean, for fuck's sake, I was in the grocery store earlier with a mask on and a guy walking next to me coughed obnoxiously just to piss me off. Why would I have a regulated nervous system when all of this is constant and ongoing? Why would any of us have a regulated nervous system if we're seeing images of children being blown to pieces constantly by another government that we're directly funding their entire fucking country? Why should I be calm? Why should I regulate? Why should I dissociate from all of that that's going on and just, and not even why should I, but like, why would my body ever think that it's safe? And it's kind of one of those things, like I'm thinking a lot about Saturn stationary in Pisces. And have y'all seen Wicked? Have y'all seen Wicked for good yet? You need to fucking see it. I want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it for y'all. But there's just a point in the film that discusses this exact thing of like, people will believe what they want to believe regardless of what you tell them if it's a truth that feels convenient to them. And we've been talking about this. Hello, camera. We've been talking about this idea of like convenient truths and convenient narratives with Saturn and Pisces all year. I don't know if y'all remember. I definitely remember talking about that, and how someone can be telling you the truth, like the actual truth, the objective, factual reality of something. And if they've already decided in their minds that this is easier or more convenient for them to believe because it feels better to believe that, they're going to believe that regardless of whatever evidence that you put in their face, because unfortunately, a lot of reality is subjective. There's another post that I posted that talked about this actually. Let me see if I can find it because I wanted to mention that with the whole Jupiter thing as well. Um, well, I'll come back around to that actually because that post addressed more of the Mercury retrograde stuff that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, my point is we are on the brink of, are we on the brink? We're in the midst of capitalism and collapse. And we are also in the midst of a fascist government taking over. Like, there's a lot of things going on that warrant a dysregulated nervous system. You know what I mean? Which I don't even think you can call it that, but that just warrant, I'll say, an activated nervous system, because that's really what we're talking about when we talk about dysregulation in a lot of cases. The ways people have ruined the name, the verbiage of it. Um, an activated nervous system is necessary during this time. Yes, it's uncomfortable. No, it doesn't feel good. But remember, the whole reason that it doesn't feel good is so that you feel moved to do something about it. And this was like the main theme of Mars in Cancer and that Mars retrograde in Cancer. All those feelings and that discomfort is meant to move you to action. You are meant to respond to it so that you feel better. But if the moving to respond to it that we're doing is this constant intellectual or spiritual bypassing of the actual emotion and what it's trying to tell us to do about our external circumstances, then yeah, it's like it's where it's going to turn into the numbing and the coddling and the overindulgence of things that aren't actually making us feel better, that just keep us addicted and dependent on different like substances and different governments and all this other kind of stuff. So it's the opposite of autonomy in that case. It becomes us subjugating ourselves. And so when I talk about cardinal signs, remember Cancer being a cardinal sign, as well as Libra and Aries and Capricorn. Cardinal signs are trying to feel better on the inside by changing something outside of them, changing something in the environment or responding to the environment. And that's like, I think we've talked about control in this context, or at least maybe I have talked about control in this context as something that we need to let go of. But I mean, just like I was saying with getting on testosterone, like if being in control of myself and my emotions made it to where I can actually respond to my emotions better, then that's a good thing. If if we're talking about activation, nervous system activation, and quote dysregulation not being a bad thing, then that just means the same thing as when I talk about the thermostat, right? The thermostat is set to 72 degrees. Well, if the room is 75 degrees, the thermostat needs to activate, because we're going to be more comfortable if the room is at 72 degrees. That's it. That's all nervous system dysregulation is. It's saying, hey, this is a threshold that I feel like I can actually function and respond to things. Or, this is a threshold that I would like to be at. This is a threshold that signals to me, that allows my nervous system to signal to me that I am safe and things are okay. And if I deviate from that space, a response needs to happen. I don't want to just sit in that discomfort for no reason. I don't also want to just numb it away, smoke it away, drink it away. Like something needs to change outside of me in order for me to get back to that baseline that is actually safe for my body to be at. Because it is true that long-term activation is not healthy for you, but if you don't have a fucking choice, then it doesn't make sense to pathologize that if there's nothing that you can do about your circumstances, especially when those circumstances are on the systemic level. And that's why it's so important that we try to get people to recognize that yes, while we are individuals with our own thoughts and our own experiences and this and that, like we are part of a collective that also functions within a system. So yes, while systemic issues are something that we can't change as individuals, like I can't just pull up to the White House and be like, hey, Donald, fucking stop, and him listen to me. Like, obviously, that's not going to be the case. But if me, you, and all, 9 million other people that live in, I don't know how many people live in DC, but however many people live in DC all rush the Capitol together, I'm not encouraging or condoning that behavior. But if that were to happen, like that's a different thing. That's collective action. But we have to all be on the same page and we all have to agree that something needs to change before we can even get to that. And that's really the struggle that we face a lot of times. And so I feel like because people are like, yeah, but I'm just an individual, like what can I do? Individuals can't change things. It's a systemic issue. It's like, okay, well, if me and you are sitting here having a conversation about the system and we know there are other people who are in agreement with us, why are we not mobilizing? If all of us decide that we're tired of getting sick and we run out of sick leave, why are we not masking? So anyway, let me see what y'all are saying in the chat before I move on to the next piece. I told a therapist recently that there are literally no more tools that I could be doing. If I had any more, it will actually be harmful. Real. This regulated nervous system myth makes you lose trust for your own thoughts and emotions. Yes, exactly. I love being a Scorpio. I see why people work so hard to make sure I repress these parts of myself. Say that. Say that. It goes back to that whole 8th house Scorpio thing that we've been talking about too, where all the bullshit needs to come up in order for us to actually like kill some shit that don't need to exist anymore and be rebirthed into to the shit that does. Like you got to purge some shit. A timely message, especially right now when we're supposed to be slowing down but are expected to be on high alert by capitalism. Yeah, wouldn't want to be a seasonal retail worker right now. I was just talking with a Star Wars fan about how the Jedi are repressive and not good, actually. I don't want my body to be seen as a tool for doing capitalism better. Yeah. Reminds me of how people make protecting yourself from pandemics a personal responsibility. Yes, exactly. I didn't even see this earlier, but you caught my drift. Exactly that. Can't deal with the scary skinny as someone who evaluates inpatient anorexics. I know that is also an issue with the entertainment industry in general right now, and I do think that that's by design. Much of what the entertainment industry does in capitalism is one kind of create the status quo and set the trends, but it also is meant to kind of normalize the bullshit that we're experiencing. So I do actually believe the conspiracy, not conspiracy theory, but I do believe the conspiracy of, you know, Hollywood agents and managers and whoever else telling these especially high profile celebrities that they need to be a certain size or, you know, whatever it is, so that, you know, whoever is giving them orders and giving them orders and giving them orders, like if it's in to be bone skinny and people are also losing their healthcare access and can't afford food, then you are less likely to question why everybody is so fucking skinny. And you're just gonna call it chic and cunty and say waist wear. Oh my god, like, you know what I'm saying? If you start making those things trendy, that's kind of what the whole entertainment arm of the fascist of the fascist system is meant to do, is to normalize fuck shit. And that's kind of what I think is happening on a larger scale with celebrities right now, especially after the whole thing of Kim Kardashian being Miss BBL and now she's out here with no waist and her bones showing. Like, hello. Rampant fascism contributes to wanting to control bodies. Absolutely. Self-coercion, we'll definitely be coming back to that. I'm okay as I can be at this time for real, but I need to hold a council with myself to figure out why the fuck I chose to reincarnate during this time. Real talk, because this era is ridiculous. Listen, you and me both. I must be here so that I can talk to y'all because I've definitely lived this life 1,000 times. And I'm supposed to be sharing my old Capricorn wisdom, but child. All right. As the lefty comrades say, organize, organize, organize. This is my frustration with political parties and only getting to have two. Yeah. It definitely goes in waves with pro ana content being better and worse regarding Hollywood. Also true. Okay, next topic. So this other post I read was talking about a nervous system that can't get angry is also a dysregulated one. And I was like, that is definitely a timely read. That was actually the first one that I saw before the other one, but the other one felt more relevant for the day is coming, especially for Jupiter and Cancer next year. But this one feels relevant, especially for right now and integrating this new understanding of regulation, because it's true. A nervous system that can't get angry is also a dysregulated one. It says when it comes to the nervous system work, so much of the emphasis is on calming down. And yet, when you suppress your anger, it increases dysregulation and can keep you stuck in shutdown, freeze, and even burnout. The times when it's usually the most difficult to navigate this are in social settings. Obviously, Thanksgiving is coming up and other holidays are coming up. This is usually where we find people having to bite their tongue, grin and bear it through the most wonderful time of the year. Imagine that you're going to a family gathering and you feel nervous because you don't want to become reactive to what somebody else says or does. You might find yourself suppressing whatever it is that you feel in your body, and you tell yourself that you should be calmer. If you appraise bodily signals like heat in your chest, tightness in your shoulders, or clammy palms as wrong, then you may use shame as a strategy to dampen things down. Now, this is important. The rest of what I'm about to say is important because, like I said, Mercury just moved into Libra. Libra is a Venus ruled sign. Libra is all about that coercion and suppression and basically getting people to comply to social scripts and social contracts, social agreements, right? But Venus is going to move into Scorpio this week. So Mercury in Libra will be answering to Venus and Scorpio. And Venus and Scorpio, as someone with Venus and Scorpio is going to say, no, you should crash out about that shit, actually. You should crash out about that shit. And matter of fact, you have a right to crash out about that shit. And if you don't, you gonna be in danger, girl. So I feel like that's kind of what this is talking about for me. And especially because Venus will be in Scorpio during our Venus ruled full moon when the full moon is in Taurus next week. So it's giving like, yeah, I know everybody wants to play nice and be cordial and be docile, but I'm here to tell y'all that y'all can do that. That don't mean that's what I'm gonna do. And if you're gonna raise your voice and act out with me, I'm gonna raise my voice and act out with you too. Like it's really giving match that energy. I'm so curious what the cards will have to say about it, but I digress. The rest of the post says, you might internalize that there's something wrong with you rather than recognizing that there's something wrong with the situation. You shut off from what could be a healthy and appropriate fight response. And it's important to understand the way that emotions are made. There's not one area of your brain, so we're going to do a little bit of neuroscience, neuropsychology, which I love. There's not one area of your brain that emotions come from. It's the communication between your body, your brain, as well as multiple brain regions that form the interoceptive network. Internal bodily signals are being sent from your body up to your brain through the vagus nerve, which connects to an area known as the insula. The insula is an integration hub that connects with several brain areas, and it's responsible for your sense of empathy, your sense of self, processing sensory information from your body, and it plays a role in nervous system regulation. The insula has connections to the frontal lobe, where thoughts and reasoning take place. If your thoughts and beliefs are that anger is wrong or bad, and that you can never allow yourself to feel, process, or express it, this will change the way that you experience that emotion. You will shift your nervous system towards being dysregulated for either hypoarousal, and you may end up feeling hopeless, depressed, and cynical, or it'll shift into hyperarousal, where you'll feel anxious, defensive, and reactive. You can harness the power of neuroplasticity to unlearn this pattern and create lasting change in your nervous system, which involves first training your body to increase its capacity for containing mobilization. So if you remember from the previous post that an activated nervous system is meant to mobilize you. So what you kind of have to do is allow, like I was talking about for myself, you have to allow the feeling to come forward in the first place. And you kind of have to let yourself feel the discomfort of that and be like, all right, it's time to go. Nuck if you buck, right? But I think just in general, training yourself to be open to an emotion coming forward is part of the work here that a lot of us, many of us need to do, especially if you're someone who experiences a freeze or dissociative state a lot, personally. So if you have Aquarius placements, Gemini placements, Libra placements, this is probably for you. When the mobilizing sympathetic nervous system energy, it's a lot of words, when the mobilizing sympathetic nervous system energy is combined with the regulating ventral vagal branch of your nervous system, it's kept in check and you feel safe. So some questions that she asked: what is it that excites you? What do you love to do? What are you passionate about? If you start to think about these questions, which tend to be more on the positive affirmative side of things, then you begin to read your bodily signals as things are happening. You can start with movement or play that activates your nervous system while still feeling safe and connected to your body. Then you can let go of the belief that these sensations are wrong or bad. And this allows for the training process where learning happens and your brain rewires through neuroplasticity. So play is one of those things that you can do. Acting and improv is probably one of those things that you can do. And imagination, writing, storytelling, all of those different things that you can do where you can create a scenario and allow yourself, and even watching films and things like that, allow emotions to come forward and then let yourself respond to them in a way that makes sense, that feels safe, that, you know, works for you. And this is how you transform the interoceptive network and the way that you experience emotions, because the problem isn't anger itself. It's the thoughts and the stories that you have around it. And it's also the way that we learn to interpret those bodily signals. So when you relearn how to work with this fight energy, you're empowered to channel it into strength, agency, and conviction. Cutting off from this mobilizing energy doesn't serve you if in social settings you tend to collapse, freeze, withdraw, or silence yourself. So when we talk about regulation and staying within your window of tolerance, I think what we're really talking about is like when you get into hypoarousal, which is that freeze state or dissociation state, that tends to be where you silence yourself and you don't speak your truth and you can't tell that motherfucker about themselves in the way that they just disrespected you. You kind of shut down, and then that enables the other person to continue abusing you. Like, sorry to use such tough language, but I really wanted to sink in that, while these, and that's not to pathologize the strategies again, but it's just to say these are things that, the state is weaponizing against us. If they can make us believe that being trans is bad, you will hide yourself and silence your voice, and you won't do the things you need to do to not only just protect yourself, but to also thrive in society. You will instead silence and shrink and hide. And then you're not able to exercise your power and your autonomy, which is your birthright as a human being. And then on the other end of it with anxiety, anxiety, kind of a similar thing. Again, necessary and protective strategy, not here to pathologize it, but the reality of anxiety is that it also kind of leads to a very narrow lens that makes it hard to make decisions and to respond and to move. The whole point of all of this, I think, and what really I think speaks to the purpose of both Aries and Scorpio as Mars ruled signs, is that your nervous system is meant to move you, to mobilize you into some kind of action to either respond to yourself or to respond to the situation that you're experiencing. So if you're going to utilize nervous system regulation for anything, it should be to, again, allow yourself, not to allow, but to increase your capacity to feel all of your feelings, any of your feelings, maybe not all of them all at once, or maybe not all the way to the fullest extreme to the extent that, you harm yourself or others or in a particular circumstance that isn't safe for you, but you're at least able to tell whoever it is that is talking shit to your face at Thanksgiving dinner that they need to go fuck themselves. You know what I'm saying? I'm using so many curse words today, but it's true. It's like, are we going to respectability politics ourselves into oblivion, or are we actually going to fight back for once? Are we actually going to tell people that they are being ridiculous when they're being ridiculous? And I'm specifically talking about anger, because I also think when planets move into Sagittarius, right? Y'all know how Sag transits are. If ever there's a time for you to be angry, it's during a Sag transit, because people will be out here loud and wrong and convincing other people that it's okay and in fact necessary to be loud and wrong about whatever bullshit it is that they believe. And people will mobilize around those ideas. So if we can do the work now in these next couple of weeks to really be like, all right, I got to prepare myself for the dumb shit people are going to say over the next couple of months. And I need to be ready to either argue somebody down, or at the very least, I need to be able to remove myself from that situation. Like, you can't remove yourself from a situation if you're in freeze. You feel me? You can't speak your truth. You can't defend your honor. You can't fight back if you are stuck in just fear of speaking up for yourself and sharing how you really feel, sharing your truth, basically. So if nothing else, if you take nothing else from this conversation today, all of this is preparing you for these Sag transits where you're going to have to talk your shit and share your truth, regardless of what other people might have to say to combat it, because they will. They simply will. Sometimes you need to let this energy come into your body and stand up for yourself and communicate effectively. Regulation doesn't mean that you don't get angry and frustrated. It's that you learn to work with these powerful energies to help shape your life. So through the power of neuroplasticity, you can unlearn the past and relearn to respond. And you know what? That actually reminds me of, I'm going to reference Wicked again, but it reminds me of just like the whole story of Elphaba in the first act, and how we see very early on that when her sister is getting bullied, when Nessa Rose is getting bullied by those little kids, and Elphaba gets angry, her anger is what allows her magic to throw them rocks at them fools, and then they run off, and then they stop bullying both of them. Her anger is what allows her to stand up for all of the animals in Oz that are losing their rights. Her anger is what allows her to use her magic in this really big transformative way, instead of becoming an agent of the state, or instead of cowering in fear, or instead of um just doing nothing. And even though it turns out the way that it turns out in the second act, I think that's why that first story is so impactful, and why the end of it, whenever you see her, well, I don't want to spoil it, but this idea of like all of this energy, this anger, this rage, this passion, um, the joy, even, or the disappointment, the grief, like all of these feelings, the power is in how we not even transmute it, but just how we give it purpose, right? Like, we don't feel feelings just to feel feelings. Feelings is what colors our lives. It's what enriches our lives. It's what um makes us feel alive in the first place. And so if we're constantly in systems that are telling us, hey, don't feel that way, hey, tone it down, hey, stuff that in, it's cringy, it's corny, you're too sensitive, you're too soft, you're so emotional, like whatever. Like, yes, there is a point where emotions do become, I don't want to say unproductive, but where emotions become debilitating, I guess, right? But within your unique window of tolerance, they're extremely necessary and useful and transformative for both you on the inside and for your surroundings and for your relationships. So it's really just this reframe of, again, regulation being about learning how to embrace and even utilize your varying emotional states, especially when it's appropriate to the situation that you're in. And I think, we talk about Saturn and Pisces, or planets in mutable signs, and like gaslighting yourself. I think something that a lot of us do is, like, if we have an emotional reaction to something that seems like it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Or something that's not that serious, that's us forgetting the wisdom of our own nervous systems and all of the things we've ever experienced. Like, sure, somebody else may not respond to something the same way that you do, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong for responding the way that you responded. It just means that you're different. And that's what I think the magic of Scorpio is as well, is that saying, you know what, there's no shame in how you feel and how I feel, or how we just feel differently. But that doesn't mean that one of us is right or wrong, or good or bad, or responding appropriately or inappropriately. It just means we're having a different response. And how can we continue this relationship while honoring that we are different? Our nervous systems are different. Um, but then the bigger picture is that, yeah, we got people out here, intentionally or unintentionally, whatever, doing the work of the state by getting people to self subjugate, basically. And that's where I think the Libra and the Mercury retrograde of this all kind of comes in, because Libra, like, and I don't mean to shit on Libra. I do think there are really important things that Libra does, but I think the way that many of us experience Libra in transit in our current social context is subjugation. It is coercion. It is compliance to things that we don't actually agree with or vibe with, because there are laws. There are laws that if you don't adhere to them, bad things happen. So, but the other thing that we get from Libra is that ability, again, another cardinal sign. It's the ability to take control of ourselves or over a situation in a way that mitigates harm, in a way that is palatable, or in a way that is sometimes not super obvious that we're breaking a rule or going against the grain. It is, yes, it is manipulation. Venus signs are about manipulation, but look, sometimes we all manipulate, first of all. So if you think you're a person who doesn't manipulate, you need to go do a little bit more honest self-reflection. And the truth of manipulation is that, yeah, sometimes you can't just overtly go tell your boss to go F themselves. Like, sometimes you can't do that. You can say, well, per my last email, right? Like, you can use language, you can use concepts and art and music and whatever else, like you can create in ways that still get a message across effectively in a way that people can actually receive it, in ways that people can actually maybe remove their own sense of self and identity from the message that you're sharing and actually internalize it in a way that they can then do something with that information. um I think that's a big purpose. I think, again, we're talking about like Hollywood and media, the media industry and entertainment industry, like they use a lot of this Libra manipulation for bad. But there are some artists where when their films get through and get enough screen time, they can put messages in there that a lot of people will be more receptive to, because it's not CNN or Fox News or whoever just blatantly propagandizing them. You can use story and literary devices and art and whatever else to get your message across in a way that's a little bit more covert and less offensive, right? And then Scorpio comes along to say sometimes you need to offend. Sometimes people need to feel you for real. Sometimes people need to feel their own heart start beating because they thought they could play in your face, and you let them know that they can't actually. So you need both. The discernment of it all is, when do you utilize which tool, right? What are y'all saying in the chat? Moving into matching energy instead of forcing myself to be nice has literally helped lower my blood pressure. Yeah, for real. You need to get that out sometimes. No, you're right. That's exactly how abuse works. That excessive stress, shame, anxiety, fear, silencing nervous system overload is how this country integrates such harm as the status quo. Exactly. That's literally what they just did with the government shutdown. Literally what they just did. They put the Democrats, which they all work together in my opinion, but as far as the optics of it go, they put the Democrats in an impossible situation where they said, all right, well, y'all can withhold and drag this out, and people are not going to be able to get their food stamps and people are going to die or whatever else, or y'all can comply to all of the nonsense that we just put in whatever this is we're trying to pass, and we're still going to ruin everybody's lives, but um maybe it'll happen a little bit slower. It's like ah, you know um ciao. Anyway, this is really hitting. I silenced myself for too long, Taurus rising, and when I finally stood up for myself, I got called defensive by a bunch of non-confrontational polite white people. Listen, defensiveness is one of them things where it's like, yeah, maybe there are times where someone is trying to give you honest feedback because the impact that you're having on them. But when you are literally in a position where someone is attacking you, are you not meant to defend yourself? If someone is attacking me, why would I not defend myself? And that's why, again, we talk about Libra and communication styles being effective. That's why if you're in a relationship with somebody that you care about and you are trying to give them honest feedback, right? Feedback meaning you're having an experience with them that is impacting you and you want to share about it. There is a way to communicate that without attacking them if you want them to hear what it is that you're trying to say and you want an effective result. That doesn't mean that you can't get angry. It doesn't mean that you can't get loud. It doesn't mean that you can't say what you need to say. But it does mean there's a difference between attacking someone verbally and putting them on the defense versus sharing an experience that you're having in order to get them to see your perspective, right? Those are two different things, even just how I explain them. But if somebody is attacking you verbally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever, like you are well within your right to clap back. You just are. I know people don't like hearing that because we want to be all repressed, but like Jesus Christ, like I don't know. I just pisses me off. Let them people let them people play in your face. It's like every time a Taurus transit comes through, or Taurus full moons, especially because it'd be a bunch of planets in Scorpio, including the sun. My Leo, my Mars and Leo be like, stand up. Them people is disrespecting you. Why are you apologizing to people who are disrespecting you? I don't like that shit. And I don't like when y'all be mean to yourselves either. Quit it. Quit that. I appreciate your live so much, Mixed Mercury, because I'm always reminded to remain radical, expressive, vocal, and truthful. You know what? You and me both. Oh, sorry, I don't want to put y'all conversations up here. White colonial culture has fucked up so much, and it's why I get frustrated with people who focus on class above everything else. Yeah. It's layers. Okay, let's pull some cards. Let's pull some cards for the full moon. Let me cover my head, girl, or I'll be out here channeling some spirits. And so many white people get defensive about systemic racism. It's infuriating. Don't tell my pale ass that shit isn't real. I'm so serious. Like, enough. Every day. Every day. Bringing out the Black Tarot. We love her. She's so good. Okay. Did I talk about everything? I talked about, yeah, Mercury and Libra, Mercury back into Scorpio. I talked about Venus and Scorpio. I talked about Saturn stationary direct. I didn't really get into Jupiter moving back into Gemini, but it's in all of this. I think the part that was about like reframing the stories that you tell yourself about your feelings and just like learning, not learning, but speaking up for yourself and all that kind of stuff, I think is tied into the Jupiter retrograde into Gemini of it all. But I probably have more to say about that when it happens and we're dealing with planets in Sagittarius, because I think that's just honestly, it just makes me double down on the point of you're gonna have to talk your shit. You're gonna have to talk your shit this December. Like you just are. I think the writing's on the wall about that. So let's get into these cards, cha. If you haven't already, please remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel. I love a good shuffle. So satisfying. It's getting warm. Oh, I feel it coming over me. Welcome in, spirits. Welcome in, ancestors. I open myself up to your divine wisdom and insight. I love to see it. Okay. To my elevated, healed ancestors, spirits, and guides, thank you so much for the folks who are here listening today and in the future, who are gathered in this space. We thank you for your divine wisdom and insight. Today, I come to you asking for some insight, some advice, some guidance on what this full moon in Taurus will be illuminating for us and how to navigate the skies leading up to and following this illumination. I'm open and ready to receive any messages you might have for me and the besties on stream. We pray that your message is clear, concise, and direct to the point. And so it is. Ashe. Amen. All right, let's get it. Wow, 3 of Wands. They cute. 3 of Wands for our context. The star, we got the star last week, so it's back. We have Son of Coins, which I believe is Page of Pentacles, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check. And Judgment. Ooh, Judgment. Okay, so we got 2 majors. Let me just make sure Son of Coins is Page of Pentacles. It's either Page or it's Knights. Where does it say? Oh, it's hot. Is it gonna tell me? Okay. Sorry, y'all. Please hold. Oh, it's not telling me. It's not telling me. I think it's I think it is Page. Yeah. Is it Page? Child, I don't know. It might be Knights. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're gonna, well, it actually, I guess it matters a lot, but I'm gonna read the definition for that card when it comes up, and then that'll verify it for me. But let's start with 3 of Wands. Oh, let me put it in the chat. All right, so starting with 3 of Wands as our context, this just kind of tells us the underlying meaning of everything that we're discussing today. 3 of Wands. So 3 of Wands, we see pictured here 3 gorgeous women. They are just chopping it up, having a good time, blowing some bubbles. I think this is meant to be a positive card. From what I remember about 3 of Wands, it is well, wands in general represent the element of fire. It's about creativity, it's about passion, it's about doing something, taking up space, creating and facilitating change. It's more of an action oriented card, and 3s tend to be about communities and relationships and working with others. So this kind of speaks to me about collaboration. It speaks to me about having a direction to move in and moving vicariously forward, regardless of what the potential outcomes might be. And that something about this to me says just not going it alone. Like there are other people involved on your journey, and the openness of working with others and um using collective action, like letting others inspire your work and your ideas, and basically just not doing it alone. So I like this idea of collective action that Deb just said in the chat. Thank you for that. Let me see what the book says. Expansion and foresight. Love that. 3 women lean against a fence blowing bubbles. Three of Wands, a card of peace, symbolizes trusting in the universe while pausing to detach from the material realms to gain perspective. The women are off the beaten path, hoping to discover all the opportunities that await. This card encourages manifesting, speaking to your dreams, plans, and the needs to the universe. Tap into your vision for your world and push past any limitations you have placed. Tap into your vision for your world and push past any limitations you have placed on your design for the future. Explore all the possibilities. Your thoughts and interactions are an energy exchange between you and the cosmos. Everything is connected. Honor that network. And the aligning message is to take the scenic route. So that's actually really cute. I wasn't thinking about that, but now that I'm hearing it, it's making me think about especially because we do have the star as our first card in this spread. If you listened to last week's live, the star was our context for our new moon in Scorpio reading. And much of that reading, if I remember correctly, was about this idea of kind of going off script, or taking the road less traveled, basically, and allowing yourself to imagine something new and work towards it. And I think Three of Wands is kind of saying the same thing. It's saying it is the actual action of moving forward and to go where you need to go, even if you don't know how it's going to turn out, or even if it's something that hasn't been done before, or even if it's something that seems it's a willingness to go on the adventure, basically. I think Two of Wands that comes right before it is kind of more of a contemplative and imaginative state where you are envisioning what all the possibilities could be should you start moving forward, or there's a little bit of the, I don't know, actually like creating the vision with two of Wands, and then Three of Wands is moving towards that vision. So I think there's something here about like the vision is maybe, because we're talking about a full moon, maybe the vision has become a little bit more of a reality, or it's become a little bit more illuminated so that you are able to trust your intuition and just continue to move forward. Like, again, allowing other people to come on your journey with you, but it's the willingness to explore is really what I'm getting from the Three of Wands. The willingness to explore, the willingness to move forward, and the openness to whatever is going to happen on the journey, especially because you're not going it alone. That's kind of what it gives to me. So we're going on an adventure, Charlie, for all my millennials out there. All right, the star, I already kind of talked about this, but this is our situation. So this is what we're actually doing. We are embarking on a journey, or rather, we are moving toward a vision. We are moving towards uncertainty. We're moving towards liberation of sorts. We're moving towards freedom. There's just a level of, again, just this, honestly, this vulnerability with both the star and the Three of Wands that says, like, I can handle whatever comes my way. I'm open to whatever comes my way. A big message from last week was that I wouldn't go on this journey if I wasn't invested in my own growth. And because I know that growth is a part of this journey, I am accepting in advance that it's not going to be easy. And that there are going to be times where something is going to be required of me that my current circumstances aren't requiring from me. And that's okay. I shouldn't shy away from it. I should go boldly towards it. So both of those cards together kind of makes me think about that. And then again, the star being that we are honoring our unique and divine vision for a different future and trying to make our way towards it. Now, Son of Coins as our card in the middle. We just read the book so I know which coins I'm dealing with. If it's knights, I have a feeling it might be knights, to be honest, in this spread intuitively, because I know knights are about, Knight of Coins is about having a plan, a structure, a sustainable way to build and move forward. So let me just see what it says for Son of Coins here. Son of Coins is about persistence and manifest. So we've gotten the word manifest probably 3 times now. 2 young men engage in capoeira on the beach. Capoeira carries the energy of survival, allowing its participants to remain psychologically, spiritually, and physically resilient. The Son of Coins works towards security with plenty with practical, driven, and patient precision. So this is Knight of um, Knight of Pentacles. This card is about dedication and determination towards your goals, but not putting life or yourself on the back burner in the process. The sun always finds a silver lining and enjoys sharing the light he sees with others. He knows that challenges, slip ups, and mistakes are part of the process towards improvement and success. Be a dreamer and a doer. So what's so funny about this is that this card is right below the 3 of Wands, and that line here that says to, yes, move with dedication and determination towards your goals, but don't put your life or yourself on the back burner in the process. It's about sharing the light that you see with others and knowing that you're going to make mistakes and not shaming yourself for them. But I think because this card is right below the 3 of Wands, there's something to be said for um if the challenge here is if the challenge is not is oh my gosh, the challenge or the thing to overcome is that persistence and determination, right? And knowing that you're going to make mistakes along the way. It just goes back to that whole thing of like, if your intention for all of this is in service of your own growth, right? Or in service of liberation, like it's going to cost you something. And a lot of times, like when you are being disciplined, when you are trying to move in a way that's sustainable and deliberate and just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, it's going to require something of you. It's also going to require you to, again, allowing other people in, um, allowing other people's insight in, and in the moments that you get stuck, you know what? It kind of makes me think about the part about not putting your life on the back burner. It's talking about ambition and self-determination, but in a way that is not just you focusing on this specific task and nothing else. You know what I mean? I think because the star is in front of it, there's something about broadening like your vision of success almost, and like, yes, allowing other people on along the journey, but also just like hanging out and having fun. And it's like, I don't know, something here is like, it's not just about the outcome. It is about the journey. It's about the climb. It's about the process of getting to where it is you're trying to go. It's all the things that you learn along the way. It's the people who show up for you that you didn't expect to show up for you, and the things that they are able to offer you. And it's also yeah, it's just kind of what you learn about yourself along the way. So I think then having judgment here at the end, like judgment is very much that card that's like having you not reflect, but the advice, I guess, here, or the way to move forward being judgment is kind of accepting up front that you don't know what the end result is going to be, but you will learn at some point. And I say that because I think about the judgment card as like, it kind of represents the ignorance of going through something for the first time. And so you make a lot of these decisions based on the knowledge and the information that you have going into the situation. And so you can't know how something is going to end up before you do it. And maybe the plan or the vision or the ideas that you have going into a situation, like the ideas and the plans and the vision and how it all actually turns out in practice, are going to be different than what you entered the situation thinking, right? Like you are going to be changed by that experience, and there may be a level of grief or regret or disappointment or something on the other end that's like, man, I wish I would have known this when I started this process. But I think, I don't know, something about this to me says like judgment as the remedy is allowing yourself to find out by doing. It's allowing yourself to learn as you go. It's allowing yourself to, again, have people fill in the gaps of knowledge that you may not have. And also accepting that even though you can utilize somebody else's wisdom and insight, you still are going to have your own journey and your own experience. and you're going to have to make your own mistakes in that process. So it's probably something around not shaming yourself, right, for the ways that you show up in that process, or not shaming yourself for not knowing until you get there, not shaming yourself along the way as you're making mistakes, but to just keep moving forward, keep responding, keep asking for help, and just keep going. What else does it say about judgment? I'm trying to figure out the Taurus of all of this as I'm speaking. Can't have discernment without experiences and errors along the way. I love that. Judgment. Okay. Judgment. We're talking about decisions and self-assessment. All right. A spiritual guardian blows a horn, signaling danger after seeing two individuals struggling to stay afloat. Judgment is a call to step into our soul mission. It is time to transition from one state to another, becoming fully awake. The Judgment card speaks of painful and challenging times. Struggles are rarely appreciated in their present moment, but this card asks us to cleanse, purge, and renew in order to transcend. When the Judgment card is pulled, it's time to consider the following. Are you able to ask for help? Do you hear your higher self calling? How can you absolve the shame and guilt you may be carrying and make amends? Well, I'll be damned. Ooh, okay. So the affirmation for this card says, I value my energy, walking away from people, places, and situations that disempower me. That's fascinating. Okay, I'm seeing the Taurus of it all now. It's talking about so in yang, which I think in yang, I should say, whenever you are embracing and exerting the Judgment card, it's talking about inner criticism, or sorry, it's talking about rebirth, awakening, inner calling, absolution, self-evaluation, composure, renewal, and forgiveness. And when you're internalizing it, potentially for the negative, it's talking about inner criticism, false accusations, ignored intuition, self-doubt, cycling karmic lessons, malicious gossip, blindness, and indecisiveness. So yeah, that really drives the point home. So let's talk about Taurus for a second. Taurus as a sign, so funny that this whole conversation would start with me talking about how I have Taurus rising with Venus there in my T-boy chart. And now we're here. Love astrology. Taurus is a sign that ultimately to me is about self-approval. We don't talk about that aspect of Taurus enough because we tend to focus more on the social norms and expectations and the status quo, right? Not rocking the boat, playing nice in order to get what you want and all of those types of things. But ultimately Taurus exists for the purpose of self-approval. Like, yes, we want approval from others. Yes, we want and need, I don't want to downplay the need for approval from other people, because that's what creates a strong sense of belonging and relationship. But at the same time, like, in the context of rejection, I've been saying this a lot. Rejection is protection. I don't remember where I first heard that, but it's been true ever since then. Rejection is protection. I think that's the point of this card. Like, rejection is protection means, like, I can't think of a situation where I've been rejected and something else more aligned for me didn't come out of that situation. Like, can you think of a time, truly, can you think of a time where you were rejected and, like, you kind of weren't better off for it at some point? I know that's a weird question, but, like, bear with me, stick with me, because obviously if you were rejected in the first place, and let's talk about this in the context of fixed signs and how fixed signs represent authenticity and self-acceptance, right? Because if you're not being authentic and you're not accepting yourself or being authentically accepted by others, you are self-abandoning. Point blank, period. You are self-abandoning. You've internalized shame. You're not being yourself. So if you are being rejected by whatever it is, a job, a relationship, a friendship, even a parent, there's a misalignment there. They rejected you because of the misalignment. Now, whatever they project onto you as a reason for that misalignment is not your responsibility. That's none of your business. It's just not. Um, Painful as it may be, there's a misalignment there. There's something that that person either doesn't see in you or can't give you or doesn't see in themselves in relationship to you. Like there are so many different ways. If you factor in how all of the fixed signs work, there's something about that relationship that is simply not for you. And they are doing you a service by rejecting you and letting you know that you actually don't have to hold on to this relationship. You can move on to something that is more accepting and in alignment of you, but you will not know to walk away and to let it go if you don't accept and approve of yourself. If you are constantly putting yourself in the position to say, I'm not good enough, I'm not XYZ enough, I am not, like, if you lean into that rejection as a form of, as an excuse to shame and self-deprecate and to reject yourself, right? um if you're using rejection as a reason to shame yourself, it's like maybe you just don't need to do all that. I don't know what I was trying to say. But I don't know. It's not to say that rejection doesn't hurt. It's not to say that rejection doesn't feel good. It's not to say, or feels good. It's not to say that rejection is like something that you should just not feel your feelings about. You should feel your feelings about it. Your feelings about it, in fact, can reveal a deeper truth to you that you can utilize and transform that information into something that does actually work for you. Um, Sometimes we get rejected from things that we want, or sometimes we get rejected from things that we thought we wanted and we end up losing them or whatever it is. Like sometimes the lesson in that is just to learn how to lose, how to lose and how to grieve and how to let go of things and eventually move on. Right? Sometimes that is the lesson. It's not that much deeper than that. Is that nothing lasts forever and I have to learn how to let this go. Sometimes that is the lesson. Sometimes the lesson is, man, if I would have stayed in that relationship, I would have turned into a person I can't even recognize. If I would have stayed in that relationship, I would become a version of myself that is stifled and repressed and just a shell of myself if I would have stayed in that situation. If it comes to a job, like, man, who knows what type of work environment I would have inherited, what type of other just like, well, who knows what type of relationships I would have inherited, who knows what type of work I would have inherited. And maybe it is true that I am not the person I need to be in order to deal with all of those things yet. And the rejection is giving me time to grow into some skills or to grow into a mindset or to just grow in general in a way that when the time comes and a similar job or a completely different job comes along, that I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to take on these things. Whereas at the time I may not have been ready for that and I just couldn't see that. But at the end of the day, the point of the self-approval of Taurus is to say that I know who I am. I know who I am. I've seen the evidence of who I am. I believe and trust that the relationships that I do have, who see me and who approve of me and who support me, can see who I am as well and help reinforce the image that I have of myself. And through all of these things, when I am met with a situation where I'm not getting the approval or I'm experiencing rejection, I can accept that that is just not for me and that that is okay. And I can divert my attention towards something that feels more in alignment, more authentic, more real, more honest, more truthful for me. And as a result, I will become more of myself. I think that's what this is also talking about with the star, the 3 of wands, all of it. It's just saying like, yeah, whenever you have a vision, you have a goal or something that you're trying to achieve. Um, Sometimes what you learn about either that vision and what it takes to make that vision come true, what it's going to require from you to make that vision come true, is either that you are not there yet or you've been downplaying yourself. You've been self-deprecating. You've been ignoring your gifts and your skills and your characteristics and qualities in a way of playing small. And now you're going to have to level up and accept that I am capable of this. I am this type of person. This is who I am, and I can do these things. And if I don't do that, I'm not gonna get to where I need to go. Like there's just something here about, one, you're not gonna know until you try. And two, like whatever responses that you're met with along the way, you can use them all in service of your own growth, but you have to stay committed to your own convictions. You have to stay committed to your own journey, your own growth, your own vision. Like you have to stay committed to yourself. And I think in order to stay committed to yourself, you have to like who you are, man. Like you have to fucking like yourself. You have to fucking believe in yourself. You have to approve of your own, like you got to give yourself that stamp and seal of approval before somebody else, not even before somebody else can give it to you, but in order to get where you need to go, you need to give yourself permission to go there, basically. That's what it's giving. And if you are constantly in doubt or in self-abandonment or in submission to somebody else's vision of you, vision for you, you're not going to get where you need to go. You simply aren't. You're going to stay where you're at. And that's probably exactly what they want. So it's like, you got to be able to see your situation for what it is, because there are going to be some situations where, again, rejection is protection in the sense that I wasn't ready to handle that yet. Or rejection is protection in the sense that I actually need to reject where I'm at and I need to go somewhere else, right? But in either case, either you're doing the rejecting or you're being rejected. Whoever's doing the rejection, authenticity is on the other side. The star is going to remind you. Authenticity, self-acceptance, self-approval, the person you are meant to be, the person you are meant to become, and is on the other side of that. And really what you're not going to know until you get there. Basically, you're not going to know the minute that rejection, again, whether it's you rejecting them or them rejecting you or whatever it is, you simply aren't going to know why that needed to happen until you know. But you kind of just got to trust the process. You got to let it all unfold. And just because it's not playing out the way that you envisioned doesn't mean that the mission itself is completely doomed. But if you like yourself, you trust yourself, you believe in yourself enough to know that you will find a way regardless, then anything that happens along the way, you'll just face it head on. You will. So, shit. I don't even know if there's something else to say about that. I kind of fuck with the Judgment card. I think it's taken me some years. I guess it's taken me some years to understand the Judgment card, but that really kind of just did it for me. I think it really speaks to the uncertainty of the moment with all the mutable placements, that like you just simply aren't going to know something until until you're in it, until it's happening. And then when you're in it, you'll be able to, yes. Then when you're in that resolution or that outcome, you'll be able to see in hindsight why things started out the way that they did. If I'd have known then that rejection was going to lead me to here, what would I have done differently? How would I have embraced this gift? Like seeing rejection as a gift, truly. Seeing rejection as liberation and as freedom from something that didn't want you. Like I can't imagine. Woo, like that just opened me. That just like my nervous system just buzzed and just like whatever clench just released. Like imagine being given the gift of not having to stay in something that didn't even want you in the first place. They didn't even want me. Why would I stay somewhere that I'm not wanted? Why would I insist on being somewhere with people who don't want me? Do I hate myself that much? Do I believe that I deserve continuous punishment? Continuous groveling and submission from people who don't even fucking want me? Why would I stay? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go towards the people who want me, who like me, who see me, who really feel me. Like, why would I stay somewhere that I'm not wanted? That just is so oh, oh. So to put a big beautiful bow on this entire conversation, right? If you are in a situation with people that you are in constant dysregulation and that you are constantly saying, ouch, that hurts. I don't like that. And they make you feel bad about the fact that you don't want to put up with their abuse. Your dysregulated nervous system is giving you the keys to the kingdom to say, hey, maybe instead of us worrying about being liked and being accepted and being approved of, we decide that we don't like this, we don't like you, and I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Bye-bye. I'm going to go where I'm wanted. I'm going to go where I'm appreciated. I'm going to go where if I say ouch, someone says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me do my best to not do that to you again. Hello? Let me go to the people who are going to honor my no. How about that? Who needed to hear that? Somebody needed to hear that. Let me go where my no is respected. Let me go where my ouch is respected. Let me go where my gifts are actually received and utilized and expanded on. Let me go where people are actually willing to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth and be influenced and affected by me. Let me go there instead of staying here where every time I try to speak up, I either feel like I can't because my throat closes up, because my chest is tight, because I go into freeze and can't move myself out. Why would I stay there? The mere evidence of me being in a freeze in this moment should tell me that I am somewhere where I may not feel safe. Now, sometimes, back to this whole thing is that you won't know until you try. Sometimes you will be responding to things, to experiences, to situations from the past, and maybe end up in whatever survival response in a situation where, again, it may not be necessary. But until you build that relationship with your own nervous system and with your own feelings and your emotions, that you can say, okay, I feel myself wanting to freeze, wanting to dissociate, but I'm deciding it's not this easy, but I'm just putting it into words, right? If I'm noticing myself wanting to freeze because there's a situation coming up where in the past I wasn't allowed to escape, but now I'm in a situation where I can't escape, that's the moment where you can choose to do something different. And you can say, you know what, this feels really familiar, which means that something in this dynamic right now is true for me and true for a past version of me, and I need to respond to it. Because it's not exactly the same, but it feels similar. And you will only know in the outcome of responding to something what it is that you need to do next. But you literally will not know what to do next until you respond. I think that's also in this message. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you're going to get it wrong. Sometimes there are some skills that you need to build. That's, maybe there are some boundaries that need to be in place. Maybe there are some relational safeguards that need to be set up, safe words. Like maybe there's something that needs to be established or built up that is in service of this larger goal or vision or whatever it is that you have that maybe has not been established yet, and you have to put in the work of doing that. So if the work is like Deb is saying, if the work is having available communication partners to openly clarify with, or if the work is reframing certain feelings and redefining, maybe this is the Jupiter retrograde into Gemini of it all, redefining what certain feelings actually mean and represent for you, or creating a new framework of things, or just, I don't know, doing the work of seeing things differently. I mean, that's kind of the spread, actually. The spread saying like, Until you do the work of learning to see things differently, you're just going to be stuck in the way things were. But the minute you allow yourself to see things differently and experience things differently, that's where the change happens. But you just simply aren't going to know where you're going to end up until you end up there. And then it'll make sense in the past of like, oh, I see why all these things, maybe they didn't need to happen. I don't like that phrasing, but maybe it's the point of I learned from these things along the way, and this is where I ended up as a result. I had no idea that I was going to learn all of these things. But if it wasn't for that initial, and it may not be rejection, it just may be something not going your way, right? Or some kind of a loss, or just some kind of a rerouting that you didn't expect or that you're resisting. It's like, wow, I had no idea I was going to be capable of this before all of this happened. But I trust myself to get there somehow. And your nervous system is your guide. Your nervous system will lead the way, but the nervous system can't lead the way. Your nervous system can't lead the way if you reject your own feelings. Your nervous system can't lead the way if you don't let it speak. That's the word. Oh, I got goosebumps. Ow! Okay, what y'all saying in the chat? Striving against the pressure towards individualism is so timely. Again, yeah, this is not a journey you're meant to go on alone. Your nervous system's never going to know that you're safe if you don't have safe people with you. I think that's the other point of it, because Taurus is a relational sign. It is about the things that we do to preserve relationships where we feel safe. Your nervous system can't recalibrate on its own. It simply can't. You need safe people in order to do that. And it happens much faster than just telling yourself stories. But at the same time, if you're going to let yourself be changed by relationships, then when you are being changed by relationships, you have to let go of old narratives as well. So it kind of happens at the same time, right? But the relationships are the evidence. They're the evidence that you've changed, and it's the evidence that you're safe and you're in somewhere else. But again, if you're staying in relationships with people who don't really fuck with you like that, you're never going to feel safe. There are going to be some situations, some relationships, some dynamics where you can't fully be yourself, and that's fine. Just know that. Know that maybe you don't need to let them people all the way in. Know that maybe they don't need to see every part of you. Maybe you don't need to unmask around them completely. That's fine. That line about not putting yourself on the back burner is too real. Knowing you're going to make mistakes. Yes. This is confirming a message I just pulled for myself last night. Period. Hi, Cosmos. Someone who does capoeira for my well-being and community building, but have been putting it on the back burner. This felt a little pointed. Yeah, you know, I would agree that, because that's real specific. Can't have discernment without experiences and errors along the way, I remind myself. Very good, very good. I love how you frame judgment as a medicinal tool for refinement and releasing shame. Yes. Now that I got this live in my rising sign getting ready to filth on this beautiful Sunday. You and me both. My mother broke up with me via text for not working hard enough to be a good daughter, which in hindsight is hilarious. That's the most Taurus thing if I ever heard it. Oh my goodness. Not working hard enough to be a good enough daughter. Like, please. Oh, you don't fit into this role that I cast you in without your consent. Wow. It's like, yeah, because I didn't consent to being in that role. Of course I'm not good at it. The fuck? Rejection saved me from staying in dynamics where I would have continued to people please instead of trusting gut feelings. If that ain't a word. Those who are meant to see me will see me. I'm so catty because my response was, I'm sorry you feel that way, which is never say to someone what I want, which is never say wait, I'm sorry you feel that way. You don't say that to someone you want to respond, that you actually want to repair with. Yes, agree. In order to stay committed to who you are, you have to like yourself. Bar. That was a bar. I need to write that down somewhere. You have to like yourself. It's less about worrying about being liked and more about presenting a version of yourself that you're actually proud of. I don't know where this stuff comes from, y'all. It just like they just be dropping stuff in my head and it comes out of my mouth. Because if you're proud of you, nobody can take that from you. Really. Nobody can take it from you. There's just people who are going to be like, hell yeah. And there's people who are going to be like, hell no. And you get to move with the people who say hell yeah. 2 weeks worth of knowledge on one Sunday. I know I'm up here for 2 hours. This speaks to me because I really, really, really want to quit my job, but I can't yet. One day soon I'll be out of here though. Hey, sometimes the astrology moves you out of it without you even having to do too much besides put that application in, child. Same, I have such an appreciation for the judgment card. Yes. This just affirms that I need to let certain people go that I've been holding on to, even though they've shown me they don't want me. So true. And sometimes the letting go, like I know I've emphasized rejection a lot because I just know it's something that is a really sensitive subject for people. And I wanted to evoke the emotion of it so that you start to build your relationship with the feelings that come up when you experience rejection. But it's also like, sometimes it's not even just rejection. Sometimes it's just releasing your grip, you know, like the judgment and the son of coins of it all, right? The knight of pentacles of it all, the star, like this whole spread, it really, to me, it really speaks to the uncertainty and the unknown just of pursuing something that you want, right? Of like desire. Here come another message. Good Lord. To me, it's speaking a lot about desire and pursuing, being in pursuit of something that you actually want. And that even when you're pursuing something that you really want, there are going to be moments along the way that seem like roadblocks or obstacles or challenges to overcome. Like the journey toward your desire is not like rainbows and butterflies. It's going to be a whole lot of other things that you have to kind of go through to get to the thing that you want. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't desire. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't want. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't dream, that you shouldn't manifest, right? And even if you experience rejections along the way, as long as you're clear on your desire, the rejections are just obstacles moving themselves out of your way, you know? And if it's not rejection, then it's just realizing that like maybe the vision itself and the way that you imagine it is not the only way. One, it's not the only outcome that maybe is fully reflective or representative of your desire in the first place. It's just kind of a placeholder for whatever that actual thing is going to be, because whatever the actual thing is going to be once you've gone through the trials and tribulations will be much more satisfying sometimes than even what the image and the vision that you thought was that for you. Does that make sense? It's like, I mean, I feel like it makes sense and I'm just like over explaining, but there's just something to be said for allowing your vision to be flexible and allowing your path towards it to be flexible. And that maybe it's not going to look the way that it looks right now or that you envision, but that doesn't mean that you didn't still get what you wanted, what you prayed for, what you were seeking out, as long as the desire stayed the same. And maybe your desire even changes. But there's just so much of the judgment card that says you just simply aren't going to know what that outcome is until you get there. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it anyway, you know? So there's something about that in all of this that's just kind of like the lessons and the people that you meet along the way and the way you relate to yourself and your nervous system and your desires and all that other kind of stuff. Like that's more the point of it all, I guess. The gift of rejection is going to stay with me to ponder. This message need the tenderism test because you cooking. That's so funny. This is the extra fuel I need to finally get the tools to move out of a non-pandemic safe household. I got rejected right out of an abusive relationship on my birthday last year. Worth it in the end. Now I know how to tell the difference. Beautiful. It's me. I needed to hear it. Yes. Seeing things differently is often untangling myself from whiteness, discovering maybe the tentacles of whiteness didn't end where I thought they did originally. Yes. Oh, that's so true. It sucks, but sometimes you have to be really pushed to finally change, to finally break free. Yes. The absence of danger doesn't mean safety necessarily. You have to be around safe people. Yes. That post you shared about moving towards something you want or something meaningful, meaningful that it remembers every time you wanted something. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that, but you're so right. I posted that too. Hold on. I know we've been on here for 2 hours, but I gotta read that also because you're so right. This one says you can want something deeply and still resist it. That resistance is there for a reason. The body protects until it feels safe. Then it says, have you ever been in that place where you want something so much, things like love, connection, stability, and you've tried for it in every way that you know, and yet somehow it keeps slipping out of reach or collapses the moment that you get close? And this is where you start to feel like you're the one ruining it, even though your longing is genuine. Well, from a nervous system lens, this isn't self sabotage or a lack of desire. It's what happens when getting close to what you want activates an old imprint of threat in the body, an emotional somatic surge that doesn't come from the present moment, but from past experiences that taught your nervous system this is dangerous, don't go forward. This activation is often a blend of unmetabolized fear, survival energy, and learned associations that were never fully digested and resolved. But when your nervous system is getting ready to move towards something meaningful to you, it also remembers every moment in your history when wanting something led to pain, loss, or overwhelm. For some people, connection feels threatening because not because they don't want intimacy, but because closeness once felt like intrusion, abandonment, or inconsistency. But for others, stability feels dangerous because every time life became steady, the rupture that followed was sudden and devastating. And then it goes on and on. So this post is up on my page. I'm going to repost it again because it's such a banger, but I feel like it really ties all of this together too. So rather than me lecturing you about it, I would give you all the homework, going to my Mixed Mercury Instagram page and reading that post about when your nervous system is like, oh no, this thing I want, I'm getting close to it, let's sabotage it. Read that post and meditate on it and see how that factors into this conversation we were having all day, because I need to stop talking and I need to go. What else did y'all say? Yes. Okay, yeah. That was such a thank you so much for that, WWME. Um that's such a good note to end on. I wish I had more time, but I trust you guys to figure it out. You're wise, you're intelligent, you are beautiful and wonderful and perfect, and you have all the answers you need inside of you. And if you don't, I'm certain there is somebody in your life who has some insight and some perspective that even if you don't use it verbatim, it can open up your mind to the other answers that you need that you can arrive at from your own authentic sense of self and intuition. I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in us. And I hope y'all have a wonderful 2 weeks until I see you next time. Stay strong, stay clear in your vision, stay true to yourself, and know that you are that bitch. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to my channel. If you are watching this back at a future date, thank you so much for sticking through the whole 2 hours. You were a real one for that. I will see y'all very, very soon when Mars enters Sagittarius. Take care. Bye.